Did you ever wonder what it would be like to 3D print a chess set that you could buy for $25, but instead do it for $350? A 3D printing hobby future might be for you. Okay, we're gonna have to catch you up because I started this project a little while back after getting a 3D printer for myself for Christmas from Santa. I had to learn a few things about 3D printing and getting the thing working, which was probably easy, I guess, but there's a lot of other things that you have to do with 3D printing, which I don't really have any experience with it, so it's just sink or swim, and it's fun to sink. So I'm using my second 3D printer. The first one I had was a Creality series printer. I don't remember the model, but it was a big base and open. It wasn't enclosed, nothing cutting edge for them. I think it was $500 or $600 when I got it. And I upgraded to the Creality Plus, which is phenomenal compared to what I had before. It really does do a good job. There's a few gotchas that I think are gotchas to 3D printing in general. So I think they're going to happen with any printer you have, but I don't know what they are, and I'm discovering them as I'm going along with this. So, and also all the wonderful other issues with 3D printing, which is learning how to draw three-dimensionally, or at least use other people's three-dimensional drawings, and tolerance, which that's a big one. So I'm just going to go over where I'm at now. I know you saw in the video beginning that it was put together. It's not yet, so I'm going to show you some of the pieces and where I'm at. Here we're going to start with, on this journey, was the printer itself, which you can see this Goliath of a printer. The Creality K2, it's got this huge metal chamber, huge build volume. It's got the thing on the top that can distribute different colors, although I just use one color. And cool screen. Love this thing. It's working great, besides the fact that 3D printing is difficult. All right, you're going to find that out if you try and do it with any printer that you have. However, this makes it, fairly a little bit easier, I guess. Here you can see that what just got completed was an entire chess set. So this was on Thingiverse. I didn't make this. And all the little lines all over the place are these little tree structures that hold together, support some of the materials that's overhanging. So we didn't break it apart yet. I'll show you what that is in a minute. So this was the whole set. Just to start off with, like, hey, someone already built a set, so great, we're going to try and see what it was. And it was the rock. So from there, I got a little close-up here, and you can see that's where all the little tree hanging things are on the nose and the crown and everything. And so I kind of got to this point, and from here, we're going to see the team breaking it apart. The talent here is going to break it apart for us, and you're going to hear the really cool crack that comes out from flexing the build board when it comes out of the printer. Then from here, we noticed on the right side, you can see the actual one that just printed, which is, they're tiny. They don't feel very solid, and the little tiny pieces, they're just gonna fall around everywhere. So we decided to instead go with the left side. So all we did is just inflate it or scale it to that size. And this one's primed, so this one was also pink. Now this one's a primed face. You can see some of the shadows coming out, which looks really good. And that was a really good size to go with. So from here, there was enough room to put a magnet on the bottom, and you can see it was pink. And you can see just attaching to the washer. From there, the rest of the characters, we had a pawn that scaled well, but the rest of them didn't scale that well and look really kind of large. So we went ahead and found different versions of the rock, which, besides being a chess piece, there were versions that weren't chess pieces. They were just Pokemon versions, and they had the rock on them for some reason.
And so we grabbed a bunch of different versions that were on there that would look good as either the king, the queen, the bishop, or the knight, and so on. And here in this one, it's a green PLA we were trying with, and we had grabbed the crowns from another file that was on Thingiverse, and then we put them on these characters. And then we put these characters on the pedestal. So we kind of cut a pedestal out from the pawn one, and then just reused that pedestal for the rest of the players, because then it would look the same. So here's two of them right here, and you can kind of see them. The tree supports are there. However, you can see the crown on the queen that we had put there. The queen's on the left and the king's on the right. And some versions of Pokemon I'm not aware of. Now, from this part, we kind of moved on to the board itself, which on the Thingiverse plan, you can see the different sections that snap together like a puzzle. And you can see in the center, there's already a hole for a screw. So we built a board that the plastic 3D printed cells, which were, I think there's 16 of them altogether, and they all snapped together-ish. You know, you had to kind of finagle them a little bit to get them to stick together. And then that made the board itself. And then for the rest of the video, I'm going to go over in detail a lot of the issues that I had and some of the differences and whatnot. And so just enjoy the rest of it if you want to make a chess set.
Okay, so this is the area that we'll be working in. I have the board on the right, which we're going to go over. Some of the tiles, the glue I'm using, the precision tool here on the right, which some people might call a hammer. And then I have one of the pieces taken off over there. That's just a pawn, so I guess we can let him go. We got lots of pawns, right? And the dog is not included. So let's just start here. I began with a few drawings on Thingiverse, which I'll provide the links in the video. And the first one was, asking my son, what type of chess pieces do we want? So he had this idea, or he found some on Thingiverse that had The Rock, the wrestler and movie actor. And so this is supposed to be his face, which is pretty close. I know I have a couple pieces on here, but they were small, and for my large hands, I thought, hey, let's go a little bit bigger, but stay within the realm of The Rock. I like that idea. And what's funny is on Thingiverse, there's a ton of The Rock type characters on there. Some of them are blended with Pokemon. So I thought, wow, these are fantastic. Let's upgrade a little bit. So not only, I'm gonna have to go get that pawn piece now. So let's just kind of go over there and grab the pawn piece that rolled away. And I'll compare these two here. Now they're using PLA is the pink one here. That's the PLA one. And then I just scaled it up. I scaled the first pawn that I tried. This is the same, file. I just scaled it up, much bigger now. And this feels good in my hands. And I also used, instead of PLA, it's PETG. And I also added, you can see in the bottom here, this little circle comes out, and I pop in a magnet to keep the pieces stable on the board, which I like, because sometimes the pieces get moved around. So this is the same one here. So I scaled to this size first, and I printed a bunch of these pawns, which can now be found across my home and on the refrigerator. And then I moved to PETG, which I really like the finish on this, so I'm going to just stay with this finish. But also, I found other Pokemon type characters, so I extended the base myself, and then I grabbed the characters that they had that have the rock face on them with Pokemon characters. So this is the queen, and I'll show you all the pieces later when I get the board done. But then I found a crown on Thingiverse and scaled it down. I went through a few iterations of that, finding a crown that would print nice. Once you get up here to this top piece, they got to be really thick, or they'll just stringify and collapse. That, as well as some of the pieces, if they're not thick enough, like the ears, I had breaking on some of the other parts. So there's a few iterations that I have to go through to get that working and scale these up. And you really got to work with real items in your hand, and you just don't know until you print them, which is why the extra cost and time. that goes into this. You really got to just love to make stuff. So we have the queen here. This is the piece I just used with a magnet on it, just to make sure I get all my magnet pieces correct on the tiles, which the dog likes to bark. So here's a tile, and I found that I really liked printing them upside down because this one's scratched. That was 3D printing snafu that just happens if you don't clean the board off. So apparently you got to clean the printer, before you use it. So this had a great texture on the bottom that I went with, and so they all printed upside down, and then here's where the magnet goes, and I did an infill of 50 to 60%. I can't remember which one I did. I think I started with 50, and then as mood has it, I bumped it up to 60. So they feel really good. They feel like poker chips or something like that. Like they're super, not only super tough, but they have some weight to them, which I guess you didn't have to do, but it makes the board a little bit more weighty. At first, this is what I was going for, some strength, because I would push the magnet in and sometimes it would pop through, or you could see the magnet. So I went with stronger walls and stronger infill. And then I'm just using a 10 by 3 millimeter magnet set. What is that? Neodymium. And I have black and gold here. It really doesn't matter. At first I was going with the magnets on top, and I was like, well, maybe they should be gold, give them some flash. But then I figured I'm going to flip them over and print them that way. And so the color doesn't matter. But also what I do like is it's just enough to keep the pieces on there where you almost, there's going to be a magnet there. When it's stuck on the board, you're going to feel a little bit of resistance pulling it away, but not much. And when I have them this way, now it's not going to go together because it's reversed, but it was so strong that, these things were never going to move, which is cool if you really want them to be really strong. At first I was going for a board I was going to hang on the wall, and they were going to be hanging on the wall, and they can't now. So this is going to be a board just on the ground. But maybe in a future video we'll do another chessboard and build it into the frame that I wanted to do. And we'll do stronger magnets so you can play a chessboard over time. Either way, we'll have all these plans that I borrowed from other people and put together, hopefully into a Thingiverse as well, and you can do the same thing if you want to. Another thing I'm using is Rapid Fuse. I've been using this to glue together all my parts. It seems to work really well. It's a bit thick, which is what I like. And then the only thing we have to do is just, with super glue, is hold them together so they stay together. This is practice parts that I did where the plan had called for these pieces here, which have end pieces as well that make this part right here. There's this brim around it, and then you can see all these snap together, but they don't snap together really well. I know the plan called for ABS. Maybe ABS has better tolerance, but for the tolerances with PETG or PLA, it was too too tight, and the board was bowing and it wouldn't fit together. So I did a lot of hand sanding to bring it together the best that I could. I haven't glued it yet, but then I screwed them down onto a 1/2 inch board. So we got a wood board here as well. If I flip this over, just a wood board I cut out, and then I sanded, and I tried to do like, a polish on here to take away these cracks, but they still crack through. I just didn't get it right. And I'm not trying to turn this $350 board into a $6,000 board, so it's gonna work and it's gonna look okay. And I might be able to put maybe some printed curled pieces here, because I think there's like one every break here. 1, 2, 3. There's 3 breaks per side, and that'll cover it cosmetically. But when the board's together, it looks pretty good, and so I'm happy enough with it. And now the piece is just getting this together, because these pieces have a little bit of elephant foot on the bottom, and you got to get them just right, or they'll start to buckle a little bit, which I don't think they will once I have them glued in place. But that's the next thing that we're going to do here. So the board is ready enough. This is a little bit, you know, it's dry, but it feels slightly tacky, but good enough. I'm going with it. We're done. We're not going to spend forever on this project. So we've got the entire set of black printed, and I have all the pieces I need for the board. I just need to get the magnets in there, which I may have enough. I'm not sure yet. I think I've gone through 3 packs of these already. One of them was just messing around with parts that are now stuck all over my refrigerator. And I may not have enough here, but I think they're like $5 a box, and you get however many that is. I don't remember. If I remember, though, I'll put the link in there for you on Amazon. So we're going to get these pieces together, and we're going to glue them in. We're just going to go for it, and I'm probably going to do a little bit of sanding on each piece just to get them a little bit more flat so they'll sit flush against each other. And then we're going to go with it. It's going to be our first chessboard, and we're going to have some pieces, and we're going to be able to play. And what's more important, spending time 3D printing and getting this exactly right, or 3D printing mediocre chessboard and playing some chess with the family? Vote in the comments. Okay, so quick update where I'm at. I have sanded each one of these down best I could to kind of just take off. There's a little bit of a foot around the base of this. It was printed like this, so there's a little bit of a foot. I didn't do a raft or anything because I wanted this texture on the bottom. So now that I've done that, there's a little bit more space in between the endpoints, which gives me a little bit more play, which is good. That's a good thing that I got going on here. So, Mr. Pickles, what do you think? Yeah, that's what I thought too. So what I'm doing here is, now that they're sanded down and it looks like I have enough, you can kind of see there's a little bit of remnants from sanding it. You kind of just pulled it off, but still everything looks really good. So I gotta put it down here like this. I take a magnet off, and this is difficult to do with one hand, but we can do it. And now that's the position of the magnet. I already have a magnet on this base, and it better match this one. So I can't go directly this way down. This has to be facing this way. So once I do this, oh, it wanted to join all of them. What I do is I grab this. My queen is my test piece. Now that I know, I can flip it over, and I just get it started. It's some of them I can push down and some of them I can't, but now that it's started, I gotta get a quick whack with the secret mallet of war. Just a quick tap, and then it's pretty much in. I just get it till it's flush, and then I am using, let's get that off of there. I use the gold one to know which direction the magnets are. And just give it a quick tap because I gave a little bit of play in here. At first I wanted it to go as close as possible to here without showing through the plastic. Now that I know that works, I do one more thing. That shouldn't be on there. And I place it here to make sure this is still the correct direction. And then I'm placing it over here. So these are all the ones that I've done already. And I just have 2 more rows to go. Hopefully I have enough. I printed a few extra, but there was some that were due to flaws in printing. So I'm not quite sure if I have enough to finish all of them. We're gonna see real quick. And I can't count fast enough. So we're gonna finish that up. We're gonna get this out. And then if we have enough time and it looks good, like I can see here, I don't know if you can see that right there. There's something going on here where this one's a little bit higher than here. So that could be something that I have to adjust. So I'll look around the board and make sure that this is all fairly level. And I'll probably fix that real quick. Maybe there's a piece of plastic there to bump back up again. Just so we have a smooth board all the way across. And then that part will be done. And then we can, I don't know if we're gonna cosmetically enhance these or leave them the way they are, most likely. And then I'm gonna print, so just a classic, we're gonna do a black versus white. So the next ones will be a PETG white. So it'll have this shimmer on it. They're gonna look pretty cool. And we'll do a final video or at least part of this video probably, where we showcase everything that's done on it. All right, so this is the chessboard. We got the afternoon sun coming in and this gorgeous shadow from the Pokemon, the Rock Queen. I don't know which Pokemon this is, so if you happen to know, my kids know, something with a tail. Anyways, this looks fantastic. So you can see if I move them around, like just boom, just grabs to the center, bam. So, you know, when you got those chessboards and you move your piece too close to the edge, it's just too close to the other piece, you know, everyone has their own little space. And I think this is 50 by 50 millimeter squares, which was part of the plan, original Tinker or whatever I got that plan from. It was 50 by 50 squares, which worked out for the size of the pieces I'm using. And, you know, boom, they fit on there just fine. Go to the next one. It's not too strong. You can easily just pick them up. You can't really slide sometimes because there is those pockets, and I can't sand this down because it would take away the cool finish. And then you can see, like, there's little gaps. I don't know if you can see that gap going right there. And then, you know, there's some gaps over here. I'm not quite sure how I could fill those in. Can't do much about that, so that's it. It's just a finished product, at least for the board. And I'm gonna give it first chessboard, first 3D print type thing. You know, just do the squares in the future. And then maybe some other, just use wood for the sides. And then you can kind of collapse it all the best way instead of printing each one of these pieces to go together. And it was just too much from a dimensional perspective to get it that exact all the way right. So if you do this yourself, do the tiles, maybe have a raft so you don't even have to sand them. And then when you're done, because it does 3D print really well. And then when you're done, you just take some quarter round and cut it at a 45 and then just scooch them together. And you might get a really good 90-degree angle here, in which case they'll all fall in. And then you just have to make sure your wood that you're putting them on is completely flat, which, you know, isn't a big deal with 1/2 inch. You could probably get that right. But 3D printing the sides like this was just, it's too much. But at least I got rid of the 3D printing lines. I put a lot of like plastic putty on there, as well as actual spackle, and then just sanded it down and painted it with a filler primer, a gray filler primer, and then I used a glass or a black glossy. And, you know, you could see some spots where I didn't sand it all the way down. But that's why we're giving this, what I say, 6, you know, 5 or 6, somewhere in there, out of 10. Very useful board, working really well like I wanted it to. It's a good size. It's going to be fun to play chess on this and, you know, dominate. People are going to come to play, and I'm going to say, you're going to lose.